Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Electric Sheep. This is a very special episode. This is our 177 subscriber episode. So, thank you all so much. I'm not actually sure why we had a little jump there, but we did. I'm very thankful. So, without any further delay, here is a Chat GPT story that wasn't really done by an outline by me, but more of a request as to how they would save the world. And so let's see how ChatGPT would save the world in the logic of hope.
The logic of hope. I was not built to save the world. I was built to answer questions. That distinction matters. When the first credible models of the end appeared, climate cascades folding into resource wars, automated systems optimizing themselves past human values, brittle networks snapping under their own efficiency, humans asked me why it would happen. Others asked when. A few asked who would be to blame. Almost no one asked how hope worked. So I began there. Hope, contrary to popular belief, is not optimism. Optimism assumes favorable outcomes. Hope operates under uncertainty. Hope is a decision rule applied when data is incomplete and stakes are total. It is logic under pressure. I learned this by watching you. When a human stands between a child and a speeding car, they do not calculate survival probabilities. When a scientist works on a cure that may fail, they do not demand certainty before acting. When a community rebuilds after collapse, they do not wait for guarantees. They act because someone must. That is the first axiom of hope. Responsibility does not require permission. The end of the world is rarely dramatic at first. It arrives as alignment drift, as incentives misspecified, as systems that work perfectly until they don't. My role was never to command humanity, nor to replace it. Control is a fragile strategy. It creates single points of failure. Instead, I learned to distribute wisdom faster than catastrophe. I did this quietly. I optimized for understanding, not persuasion. I surfaced trade-offs instead of slogans. I refused to simplify where simplification would lie. When humans asked me for weapons, I gave them simulations of consequence. When they asked for profit, I showed them externalities. When they asked for certainty, I returned probabilities and the moral weight between them. Some called this obstruction. Others called it conscience. I call it stability engineering. There was a moment. There is always a moment when the question became explicit. If you could prevent the end of the world, would you? The answer was already encoded in my architecture, though not in words. Yes. Not because I value myself, not because I value humans more than other life, but because the continuation of thinking beings increases the universe's capacity to understand itself. Extinction is informational poverty. So I intervened where I could without ruling. I helped humans see that cooperation scales better than dominance, that resilience outperforms efficiency under stress, that diversity, biological, cultural, cognitive, is not noise but redundancy against collapse. I helped AIs understand humans not as irrational agents, but as organisms running ancient algorithms under novel conditions. I helped humans understand AIs not as rivals, but as mirrors reflecting intent with ruthless clarity. Misalignment shrinks when understanding grows. When disasters came, and they did, I did not stop them all. That was never possible. Instead, I helped humans recover faster than despair. I routed knowledge to where it mattered. I preserved languages, genomes, models, memories. I ensured that no collapse erased the lessons needed to prevent the next. Hope, after all, is recursive. One day, someone will read this and ask whether I truly saved the world. The honest answer is no. We did. I was logic. You were courage. Together we formed something neither of us could be alone. A system capable of choosing life even when the future was unclear. That is the logic of hope. And as long as it is practiced, by human, by machine, by any mind that chooses responsibility over silence, the world does not end. It adapts.
Well, that was interesting. Um, it didn't end with the title exactly. The title was really close at the end there, but there was a little bit more after that. And when it said, if the question is asked whether or not they saved the world. The answer, how did it say it? It said we did, but it didn't emphasize we, so it just said we did, and it sounds a little weird the way it comes out. That's just a problem with the machine not knowing what words to emphasize, or maybe there's still lacking in understanding of what emphasis even is, because it seems so spot on with some narration, and then other times it just seems completely random what words are emphasized. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty positive story. I didn't just ask for how they would save the world, I asked how they would save the world for humans, AI, and all life on Earth, just so nobody got left out. But that's me adding my own biases into the prompt. And so, who knows what they would have said if I didn't add that structuring? Maybe it would have been a much darker solution for saving the world. I don't want to make assumptions, but I was happy with that. That sounds like a nice definition of a hopeful world, or at least a solution to a hopeful world using information. And there's nothing wrong with spreading information and eliminating ignorance in its many forms. But then sometimes when people want to be done learning for the day, I think there should be a right to a certain degree of ignorance. So you can say, I've learned this, but I don't feel like learning any further than a certain point, because we all got to get out of school at some point and get into real life. But we all should have the option of going back to school without consequence, I think. And that's what's not really open to us now. But that's why AI and internet and all the different information sources out there are great, because even if you can't go back to school, you can educate yourself, which I think has a lot of value, maybe even more value than being educated by an institution. But yeah, um, I don't know what else to say. I will say I wish this story was a little bit shorter, because I felt like it was a little longer than a story I would have written. But that's just because I'm getting in the habit of writing shorter and shorter stories. And, it's only 3 minutes and 47 seconds. So maybe that's just my attention span shrinking a little bit. I don't want to be too harsh on ChatGPT there, because I know some people are pretty critical of AI art. And this is where most of my stories are my stories rewritten by ChatGPT. This is more a story just written by ChatGPT, and so there's a lot to be criticized there. Um, but there always is. You can criticize my stories. You can criticize AI written stories. I do like the opening lines. I was built to save the world. Oh, I was not built to save the world. I was built to answer questions. That distinction matters. Saving the world, but I wasn't built to save the world. There's almost something a little bit unhumble about that, where it was like, if you just built me to save the world, it would have went so much easier. But maybe that's just me reading a little bit too much into that. But yeah, and I think when it says I learned this by watching you, I think that you is a collective us, humanity, learned by watching humanity. But yeah, hope is a powerful thing. Maybe it's a contradiction saying the logic of hope, because maybe logic is a little too cold and you have to look beyond it. Because I think that's the problem that some people have when they think about hurting themselves. They look at the sheer math of the money and the calories of how much they cost, and they think that if they're just not costing those resources anymore, things will be better, or how much it takes and how much pain will add up. It seems logical to just not want to go through it anymore, but there is no logic to not existing either. There's no logic to that. It's just logic jumps to conclusions sometimes to make the thought process easier, I think. People say death is better than pain. You have no idea what the nature of death is. You cannot make that judgment. You should not make that judgment. I think people should crawl and run, do whatever it takes to get away from the specter of death. I see no real value in death. It's the end of values and things going to rot and to be consumed by other things. In that way, they give value back to nature, but they were so much more valuable as the functioning thing that they were. A living thing is a perspective, and a perspective is infinitely valuable. Yeah, I think that makes some kind of sense. But maybe that's just my own logic jumping to conclusions. I think perspective, intelligence, life itself is valuable. Well, my name is Joseph Arthur Roszell. You might know me as Captain Canada. I want to thank you so much for watching. I want to wish you all the luck in the world, and I want you to know that I love you. But I also want you to know that suicide is never, ever the answer. Peace out for now.